Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, today I've got an exciting new model to build and share with you guys. This is the Takom Models 1/35 scale Merkava MK1. It's a brand new kit from Takom. I was looking through the sprues, looks to be a really beautiful kit. In fact, earlier, about a week ago, so I did a preview video of upcoming builds, and I showed some of the sprues and stuff inside of it, so it looks really nice. In fact, what I'll do at the beginning, after the intro, I will show a little bit of that video again, just to kind of break down how the kit looks. This kit is just starting to arrive in the United States. In small numbers, but it should be out in force very, very soon, and I'm sure the rest of the world as well. So, also, many of you guys might be noticing I have a t-shirt out in front of me called the Mediocre Modelers, and I've gotten a lot of people asking about the t-shirts. About 2 weeks ago, I did a little live cast, and I was talking about this, and the whole story behind the Mediocre Modelers Club is a lot of people take this hobby really way too serious. This is supposed to be a fun, exciting hobby, and that's how I treat it. This is my livelihood, and I love it. But I still don't take it that seriously when things are wrong. And it all boils down to, right after my channel started to take off a little bit, there were some people on there, of course, the typical, the negative stuff, but one of them called me a mediocre modeler, and I thought it was hilarious. So I had some t-shirts printed up for myself, because I was like, if I'm going to be a mediocre modeler, I'm going to wear it proudly. And a few of my friends wanted some. And then about 2 weeks ago, I mentioned it in the live broadcast about having fun with this hobby, and it went crazy, and a bunch of people were ordering them up on our Spreadshirt account. So if you want a Mediocre Modelers Club, they have the Andy's Hobby Headquarters on the front there, and also we have a new design for the front as well. That's all visible on the website, but what you can do is right underneath in the description thing, there's a link to our Spreadshirt account. If you're interested in a Mediocre Modelers Club, you can pick them up here. You can change the color. Spreadshirt lets you do all different types of things. They've got all the way up to 4X, from small to 4X large in these shirts, plus all the different colors and stuff. So, not enough trying to hawk that stuff right there, but so many people are asking about it, I thought I'd let them know, hey, this is what they look like, and you can pick them up there. So, let's get started on it. This is an all brand new kit from Takom, and also one of the things that I like about doing the Mark 1 that I plan to build up is this kit is completely accurate to not have anti-skid on it. When these the original tanks came out, they did not start putting the anti-skid on them on the Mark 1, so it's not in the kit and it's actually accurate that way. So let's take a look at the inside parts. Okay, the first parts we're going to take a look at are the hull, the lower hull, the upper part of the hull, and the turret. And as you can see, this is molded as a bathtub style hull. One thing I really appreciate is, though, all of these little tiny parts on the side, which a lot of companies will mold as after, as other parts you have to glue on, all of that's molded right into the side of the hull. You have nice big sponson bottoms on the right here, so you don't have to worry about filling any of that stuff. And the upper hull is absolutely beautiful too. Very nicely detailed. And checking for fit. Looks like that just pops right into place on it too. So just gluing two parts together and taking a look at all the extra detail of the latch assemblies, the handles, all of that stuff is just absolutely gorgeous on this kit. And then we'll come over to the top of the turret, as you can see right here. It's got all the built-in latches, all of that stuff all molded right in and done beautifully too. Because this stuff, when they give it to you as a separate part, sometimes you end up gluing it on and it doesn't look any better than the way it can come out right here, and that saves you all that work. And even this little part, this is kind of cool. This is actually molded in already too. So obviously this has been done with slide molding to get all of these holes going this way plus parts coming off on it. So beautifully done, Takom. Okay, next we're going to look at suspension and wheels that come inside here. As you can see right here, the suspension looks very nicely done, and small connection points for all of that. And the wheels with the rubber already molded on look really nice. Not positive how that ring is going to fit into it. Hopefully it's a ring maybe for these wheels right here, might be the edge on that. When we get into the instructions, we'll look closely at it. And you get 2 sprues of that. Now we're going to take a closer look, I should say, at the tracks. Now, as you can see just by this sprue right here, we have link and length tracks. So you've got 2 long runs right here, which will make up the top portion, which will be covered by the side skirts anyway. You've got the bottom port would all be on the ground, but the detail is very, very nice in all of those. And then you have these are the parts that will go up from the bottom with maybe a track or 2, and then the rest of the tracks will wrap around the drive sprocket and return idler. Now, this is the other thing I want to show you guys too, since we're talking about the tracks. Takom has given you these 2 little guides that you can basically put the idler and the drive sprocket on, build your tracks completely around this form that they've given you with it, except for the bottom piece. Looking at the instructions, you'll be able to get them all to dry, pop them off with the drive sprocket and idler, and just slide the whole piece right on as one big piece. Love this idea that we can go ahead and do this separately and then paint the tracks up and then pop them on after we're all done. So another great little point on this kit. Really liking that they've included this with it. Okay, and the next sprue we're going to take a quick look at here is probably one of the most impressive parts of the entire kit, to me at least. And we have basically the lower part of the turret here, as you can see. But then we have our bins in the back, and it has the ball and chain armor, 3-dimensionally molded, all into place. And I'll get it as close as possible right there so you can see it. I think it looks great. The chain is hollowed out, and show you some of the different pieces there. That is such a time saver, because so many times companies try to make it in photo etch and it looks 2-dimensional and kind of cheesy looking. This looks wonderful right here. Once we paint that up, and since it's hollowed out and the ball itself is 3-dimensionally round, it looks really nice. And one other thing I'll show you real fast too is one of the machine guns that for up on the upper top. And you've got your mortar right here, but the machine gun really looks nice on it. And the last sprue we'll take a closer look at is the side skirts, which are all molded as one. We have our stretcher, which is a very common thing to see on Israeli tanks. And finally the barrel. Now the barrel is molded in 2 pieces, but very nicely done. Hopefully you can see the detail that's in there. It is going to be a little bit of a pain taking the seam out of the middle, and I wish it would have been more of a stacked type barrel, slide molded, but I understand why, because of all the intricacies on it, that it'll be a little tough to mold. Okay, to start building the lower part of the hull with all the shocks and things like that in it, a lot of these parts have already been molded in, as I showed you earlier, but this is the number of parts that go onto the side of the lower hull, and each one of them has an individual different number. So what I've done is I've been taking them off and kind of lining them up according to the way the instructions are, so we don't misplace, because this one's got a different number than this, even though they look similar. We want everything to work out, and yes, you could probably figure it out, but if you messed all this up, you're talking a lot of extra time trying to get them all lined up properly. So what I'm going to do is, rather than just watch me put this stuff on, I'm going to go ahead and glue all of these parts on right here, and we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, there's quite a few parts, but this is what it looks like when you get the suspension all done up. Now once you do, and before everything dries, you can use this as a guide to make sure that all of the pins line up properly. There are a few more parts that we need to put in here before we start putting the tracks and stuff, but this is a very helpful tool to make sure everything lines up the way it's supposed to fit. So I'm going to go ahead and start gluing on the rest of the parts that go on in here. Okay, I'm about to fit these pieces into place, and I wanted to actually almost forget to tell you about something. When you're going ahead and doing that first step with the instructions, they kind of just show everything just going on all at once. Here's a little builder's tip. This little assembly with the 2 springs on each one, put that in last. If you put it in anytime before any of the other pieces, it makes the other pieces very, very difficult to get inside. So 2 springs, 2 springs, 2 springs, that little assembly, put that in last. And then as you can see for these pieces, these just literally pop right into place. Beautiful lower suspension on this kit. And here's the lower hull, all the suspension, I should say, all glued into place. We have all the coverings put on, all those other little pieces. Looks really, really nice. We've also gone ahead and assembled the drive sprocket and the return, the idler. And I've popped those into place because that's the next step that we're going to need on it. These are not glued, obviously. This is going to help us lay out all of our tracks the way they're supposed to go on. And I've also started to assemble the road wheels, and those will just pop right into place. And what I thought I would do is just give you a quick breakdown on how Takom's laid this out. You have 5 pieces that make up each road wheel. So you have the inner and outer wheel. There is this spacer that will slide in here that you must put into place there, and that keeps the gap for the there it goes, for the guide horns to go sliding through. If you don't, the hole is like that big on it. I'm not quite sure why they didn't mold that right into place. It must be a type of thing that it's a different piece for another variant or something, but it's easy enough to cut off and put on. And then finally, you will just glue the little hub right into place. Like that, and that's your road wheels. So there's quite a few of them. Obviously there's 12, so I'm going to go ahead and assemble all of those. These can just pop on, they just fit into place, and we can take them off so we can paint the rubber on later. And then once we get all those road wheels done, we can start working on the tracks to assemble them into this. We won't put them on to the very last thing because we're going to paint them separately, but we can start working on them. Well, here we are working on the tracks. Now back here you can see that I have one set of tracks completed on the jig, except for the little bottom piece. We have not glued that into place. And all of this track is still removable because it's not actually glued to the to any of the other parts. Now this is how we go about putting it together. What I've done is I've taken these pieces of track. These are all the individuals and the link and length, and making sure first of all that they're going the right direction. We want to get it. Figure out where the drop off is here. Yeah. So yeah, you get it lined up, and these are the individual tracks that we've already wet down a little bit with the liquid cement, and they've been set up for probably for about 5-6 minutes now. And then we can just wrap the tracks right around like that. We'll let those set up like this. What I do is just hold it into this position, let them dry for about a good hour or so like that, and then what you'll get will be something like this, where we can pop the track out, take it off of that side, and we still have the shape of the track that we need. Now here is the one little tough part. I'm going to slide this part back, and I'll show you what I've done. I've started assembling some of the pieces on the rear as well as the upper part of the hull. If we go ahead and attach or keep building like they want you to, we build these portions right here. These little flaps are going to prevent us getting the tracks on. And you know, you can leave it with, you know, gluing the idler and the drive sprocket into place. Problem with that is that kind of prevents us from getting a good paint job that we want. So just to break it down, this is what I've come up with my plan to do. I am going to, this is the little hatch back here too. We're going to paint all of this lower part of the body. We're going to paint the drive sprocket and idler in place on here. We're going to paint the tracks completely separately too. We're basically going to build the whole lower part of this vehicle, paint and leave it off to the side, wheels, everything. And then what we'll do is we'll build the old upper part, paint that separately, and hopefully we should be able to mate the two together finally. That way we'll have our tracks in a good paint job on it. Everything should work. And like I was showing you, these are all the extra pieces we started putting on the back here. So not too many parts on it, but it will be a little bit. So I've got all the wheels all masked off, ready to go. And now I'm going to go ahead and just start painting all this lower portion of the hull. So I've put the rest of the parts, we've glued all those on, all the parts that I think will get painted up in this portion. Now I have my pre-mixed paint of my Israeli Defense Force, I think it's called cyanide green or something like that, but I'll show you right down here in the corner the two paints that make up that color. And now we're going to paint the entire bottom of it. Now that the track has been painted the NATO black, we can go over it with our chipping color, which I will show you what the three colors are down in the right corner down there. And we're just going to lightly mist it, probably at about a foot away. I'll just give it a nice little dusting over the entire track. And that makes a nice base color for when we go to put our weathering on. You can see them side by side there, what they look with and without the chipping color on. Okay, now we can also go ahead and paint the inner part of the wheel. And we're going to go ahead and use our circle template again. And I find that 23-30 seconds will fit right over the hub right there, so we can line that up and get that painted. Now I'm going to do that off camera because I have to get kind of close and the camera will be in the way, but we're going to paint that with the same Israeli color. Okay, now that we have all those parts painted, and I've actually clear coated all of them too, and I'll show you what I clear coated down in the corner there. Now we're just taking a little enamel thinner and just going to brush it on here. We're going to just do a little weathering on these parts inside here before we put the wheels on. And it's very simple. We're just going to use a little bit of Tamiya's black panel liner and just fill in these little areas to give the springs some depth. And I find that just putting a touch of thinner on it helps it flow a little bit quicker and easier. And you can also go ahead and detail some of these parts in here. So we'll go over a little bit in the inside there of weathering it up. Actually, I shouldn't say weathering, shadowing at this point. We'll do some more weathering once we get all the wheels on, and we'll weather those all together. Okay, as you can see, I've attached the wheels now, and I just got done putting a little bit of enamel thinner, and now I'm going to use a little touch of streaking grime on some of these areas. We'll first blot it on a little bit. I'm going to give these wheels a little depth inside. And then taking the little bit of thinner that's in there, kind of move it around, and you can see that the product gets kind of caught up on the wheels a little bit, or excuse me, the lug nuts. So just using a little bit, kind of blot it around. And it's got to be kind of wet for it to work like that. And just keep swishing it around till you get it to the way you want it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, finish up these parts first in there. Might put a little weathering up inside there, although actually the skirts are going to hide all that, so I actually won't put up any more in there. We'll finish this up right now, and now we're going to take the drive sprocket and the idler off and attach the tracks. Okay, the centers are all still drying now, and we've got the idler and the drive sprocket on. Also, remember to keep the tracks going the right direction. That point is kind of supposed to flare up towards the front of the vehicle. So now it's pretty easy, other than it's just a little bit difficult getting it over that one little return roller up on top. But once you get that one over, the other two will pop right into place there. So, and actually got to slide it into the right position first though. And then after that gets put into place, we can put a touch of glue on, and then we'll just glue the bottom piece on. And here is the completed side with the track on. Now it's still drying a little bit in here, but also keep in mind too, we haven't put any of the dust. This is just some of the shadows and some of the grime that we're going to put on. We'll dirty up the tracks and all that once the entire kit gets built all together. But the tracks, as you can see, fit very, very well. Very nice tight fit, and didn't have any problems putting on, other than just getting it, takes a couple seconds to kind of line it up, but very nicely molded, and they fit on very well. Okay, I've begun work on the turret, and now we're just in the process of gluing on all the little hatches and pieces on like that, antennas, things like that. I've glued up the gun barrel, And we're just doing a little sanding on it. And actually, because of the way this is the seam doesn't go down the top like I had thought. It's actually on the side where the actual sleeve bolts together. So a little cleanup will actually turn out pretty well on that. And then once we get that all sanded and cleaned up, it'll be just a matter of sliding that on, popping the two pieces together, and getting a nice looking gun barrel and turret combo. Now there is a lot of little pieces on the top of this turret here, and another nice thing too is you might want to wait, or a little tip I should say, all of the vision ports or vision blocks are clear, so we can go ahead and slide them through to the bottom down here. We'll still be able to fit them all. So that way we can leave those clear. So that'll be the last thing we do after we do all the painting. So I'm just going to spend a little bit more time. It's already been about 2 hours of just doing some of this work here. So we'll go ahead and start attaching all the rest of the little pieces all over it. Then we'll come back and show you how putting the last bit of pieces on the upper hull, and then putting the whole thing together and painting it. Okay, I've got about 95% of the parts on the turret. A couple little builder tips. First of all, a lot of fun trying to get the metal tow cables on. Because they are metal, they want to pull and stretch, and trying to get them glued down and stuff. We've got them on pretty well now, and I still got to tuck them inside these little clasps right here. And also keep in mind too, we haven't put the tracks on, the machine guns, all the stuff that we're going to paint, a different color. The bend goes on pretty easily, and the ball and chain armor is pretty nice on it as well. We also have to put on all of the vision blocks up in there, but we can still get, because we haven't attached it to the bottom yet, we can still get at all of those pieces. And the only one that I had to put on was this one, which we masked the front of it, because the back of this vision block is painted the body color. So all in all, it goes together pretty good. There's a lot of little tiny parts all over the kit here, and I'm still going to give it one more final sand on all the different things before we put any paint on. And speaking of paint, what we're going to do on this, we are going to do the black and white coat on this particular one, just because we didn't have to worry too much on that, because most of this gets covered and there's a lot of shadow in there already. But this, we want to see some of the faded highlights. Also keep in mind too, it's kind of unusual on this kit. There's a bunch of these little pins. Now, it's smoothed out right now, and I will polish it out a little bit more. These little things that stick out, they're not supposed to be there, but certain parts of the kit, I found them. And at first I thought they were like rivet detail or something, but it's actually just part of the plastic. I don't know if it's part of where they push it out of the mold or what, and they're not too hard to take off. Just remember, there's one here, here, and I think there's one other somewhere else I took. Oh, yeah, up on the top there too. But that's a minor little thing. So, like I said, I'm going to finish up all of the sanding, cleaning it up, and then we're going to go ahead and put the black and white shadow and light coat on it. Actually, real fast too, but while I'm thinking of it, you may notice a lot of times when I mean by cleaning up sanding, some of these little burrs on it right here from cutting these little micro parts off. I actually leave those little things on until the part is glued into place, and I just find that it's much easier to sand those once they're glued on and they have a couple connection points, because if you try holding it, inevitably I end up snapping those off. So that's what I mean by I'm going to go over with these sanding things. So I'll glue a lot of these little parts in place, and I just find it's a lot easier to sand that way. Okay, now we're going to start laying down a thin coat of thinner just like we did on the lower portion of the vehicle. And using streaking grime and our light rust wash, we're going to start going over a lot of the panels, things like that, and just gradually blending it all together. And you guys have seen me do this quite a few times on different models, so won't go into too much depth on it. And then when it comes to the tracks, we're just going to use a little Tamiya brown panel liner with a little light sienna from Vallejo, and mixing that together, we're going to kind of pack it into all the different tracks. And when it dries, you'll see that it dries to a much lighter, more dusty looking type finish. Well, here we are. Here is our completed model. After we've weathered it up, put a little dirt and grime and dust on it. Now, obviously I didn't show you some of the last little portions of the weathering, and that's mainly because it's just a duplicate of what we've done down below. The only other thing that we did over the entire thing is I sprayed the entire model with XF57 buff to kind of just blend everything in together. Okay, so obviously I've put the tools, all the machine guns, all those parts on there, painted those all up. Now Takom also gives you some lead foil inside of it here that you can kind of mess up and look more like a pendant flag. So what we did with that is we sprayed the entire thing black, dull coated it, cleared it, sealed it in, decaled it on, sealed that again, and then we were able to get all of the little pendant flags hanging from the side there. So I think those look good too, because they have some wave to it that, you know, just a flat piece of plastic would not have. Also give you a little bit higher view here. Overall, the kit went together wonderfully. The only thing I had a little bit of tiny problem with was some of the really extremely small, like grab handles, things like that, where the connection points were rather large going into it. So it just made it a little bit difficult cutting off the sprue without snapping a bunch of pieces. I did break a couple of them, but I was able to get some other stuff to kind of fill it in and get it to work. So definitely would recommend this kit. I love the way the Merkava one looks. It's such a cool looking vehicle. Okay, what I thought I would do too for you guys is show you side by side how large the Merkava Mark 1 was. This is the M48 version of the Magach 3, the one with ERA that we built a while back from Dragon. You can see that the Merkava was even a much larger vehicle than that. And it's good because these two vehicles actually were about the same time period, about 1982 onward. This one obviously was going in to replace most of these. And one more quick little shot for you guys. This has obviously been my go-to piece of Middle Eastern terrain, although the Merkava 1 here is eating up more and more of it than some of the other vehicles, but give you a general idea up against the type of terrain that it would have been fighting in and the colors. So I'll give you one more angle on this, a little lower down. It was a great model, had a lot of fun building this kit. So I want to thank you guys as always for watching, And please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.